2, 1.
Welcome to Antimatters. Hello everyone, grab a cup of tea because we got a long episode today. This is part 1 of my yearly recap of all my ants. I think this year I'll be able to cram it down into 2 parts. So this is about half of my ants, I think. Up first, we got the Acromyrmex octospinosis. Their little tank currently consists of a fish tank with a leafcutter pod inside. I really do like this setup because I can just chuck the leaves in and it's not too hard to maintain. I've got a little bit of pipe on the leafcutter pod as well, just to keep the humidity inside of the pod. It does help a little bit having a little bit of tube, just stops it blowing away so easy. Inside of the nest the girls are doing great, and outside they're semi-busy. I've been really power feeding them recently, as you can see by all the leaves. Annoyingly though, my new incubator is a bit dry, so the leaves, they kind of wrinkle up pretty fast. The power feeding has had a really good effect on the fungus, and it's been growing really fast recently. I think I've managed to double it in size over the past month, maybe month and a half. Their population seems to have also gone up with the size of the fungus. I decided I was going to power feed them, but because I saw Ants Hood's Acromyrmex, and wow, they're the biggest colony I've ever seen. I didn't even realise that Acromyrmex could get so big, and now I've decided my poor little underfed girls need to grow a little bit because, well, they're only small. I don't think they need a diet anymore. As you can see, they've got a good stockpile of leaves. They have been cutting them, but I think they've got enough at the minute, so they've stopped cutting outside. You can see this little girl's got a mouthful of fungus. One of my favourite things about the acros as well is some of the workers, especially down near the bottom of my nest at the minute, they get so covered in like fungal spores or something that they turn white. They don't seem to be affected by it. Other acros just sunbathe outside. In a previous video, someone said the acros look like spiders, and they definitely do sometimes. They're doing really good though, and fingers crossed they continue to plough on. I believe the queen's doing well, as I can see brood, and everything's looking good. Next up, we've got the Manica rubida. This is Manica McLeod's family. See this massive worker here though? That's not a queen. This is one of their giant workers. I'm half convinced they're polymorphic and this is kind of a soldier girl. They'll only come out when there's food outside. She's such a beefy one though, compared to the others. She's easily twice the size. And yeah, she's not a major, because Manica rubida don't have majors, but she's something. She's just so big. Not many of her siblings are nanitics anymore as well, and they've never been underfed, so yeah, she's just a mutant. I really like her though. On today's menu, they've got cockroach, and it's candy cane sugar snaps that I got off Mr. President PJ Grant. As you see there, they love their cockroach, and they spend so long trying to pull it out of the bowl. Unfortunately for them, it's not going to happen, but they do try so hard. They are beautiful little ants as well, and I've really grown to appreciate them. When Paul said, give Manica rubida a try, I didn't realise that I'd like them so much, and they've grown to be one of my favourite colonies now. They are basically giant Myrmica rubra, and I absolutely love Myrmica rubra. The plants in the tank as well are growing really well, and all the cuttings that I planted have seemed to have taken hold. I've now got a nice selection of plants that hopefully I can grow up a little bit bigger and take some more cuttings and plant it inside of my tetra tank. Woodlice population also continues to climb. There's so many of them. There's a couple types as well now. Watch this on this little stick though. There's a shiny little gaster by the looks of it in the middle. Ah, it's the Temnos. The little acorn ants, I do believe they're still doing really well as well with the Manica rubida. I'm happy to say that there's quite a few little Temnothorax trotting around all the time. Today they've got a little end of a cockroach and some sugar snaps as well. Here's a pair tandem running in. Oh, I love them. They do really complement the tank though. And I definitely recommend, if you got a Manica rubida and a natural setup and it's a good size, stick a few acorn ants in because it seems to work and it will bring you so much enjoyment. Here's more of those bloody woodlice. At the back, you got like a whitey, camouflagey one, and the grey one, that's the normal one. This big bushy plant in the middle as well. It's getting huge. It's taking up nearly a third of the tank now, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do if it gets too tall. I might have to take the lid off the tank and keep it outside. I've also got these cool snails. I have no idea what they are, and I'm fingers crossed that she's not the only one in there, or he, but oh, they're well cool. Look at the shell on it. Here's the woodlice being a pest though. The acorn ants, they're trying to enjoy their food, and guess who turns up? Sneaky woodlouse. Here's Timmy. Timmy, he's a black woodlice, or woodlouse, and he's pretty cool to be fair, but he's a little bit special. Every time the camera comes out, he's like, oh yeah, let me get on that camera, but as you can see, he's not very good at navigating glass. He did eventually turn himself back up as well. As some fresh food today, I've decided to give them some more candy cane sugar snaps and another cockroach. 10 minutes later, quite a few of them had turned up. I also chucked in some jelly, and before long, loads of them had come out to have a nibble on it. So, over to the Polyrhachis dives. This is colony A of Polyrhachis dives, and as you can probably guess, there's a colony B as well now, but we'll get to those in a minute. I'm still not sure if this colony has got a queen, but they seem to be getting along just fine, the workers. They have been weaving a little bit, and they've managed to build themselves a nice little nest. They're currently living inside of their Tetra tower. This is kind of a troll for me, because after trying to make a Polyrhachis nest for about 2 months, it turns out that the Tetra tower seems to be, well, quite a nice little place for them to live. I did make them other nests, and they rejected it and chose this tower instead. I really do love seeing them come in and out through the doors though, and there's always loads of heads like looking out in the background. There must be at least 200 ants though inside of this tower. They've packed it right out inside, and as you can see though, yeah, there's a little bit of weaving in places. This kind of makes me think they've got some larvae, but last time I looked there was no eggs or anything. It just seemed to be some medium-sized larvae and large larvae, and nothing below that. So I'm not sure if there's a queen still. I haven't seen her, but something's producing silk. By now as well, I'd suspect that any babies that they'd had about a month ago, when I suspected the queen was dead, they should be kind of grown up by now, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on them. I did try and see if they'd mix with the other colony as well, and possibly take an extra queen, but it didn't work out, so I separated them back out. Luckily I only put 2 workers in with the other girls to see what would happen, and they were easy to evacuate. On today's menu though, for the dives, they got some, again, candy cane sugar snaps from Mr. President PJ, and some cockroaches which are wiggling a little bit. Excuse me. They really are beautiful ants, the Polyrhachis dives though, and when I thought the queen was dead, I immediately went out and got some more queens because, well, now that I've had them for quite a while, I can't really imagine life without a Polyrhachis dives colony. And before these girls collapse, if the queen's dead, which fingers crossed she isn't, there's a chance that she isn't now. But yeah, if these collapse, then I wouldn't want to be left without some girls. I've also given them a load of the poplar wood, I think it is, from Kusa.com. Use code ANTIMATTERS for 10% off at checkout. But yeah, I've given them loads of that as well, so if they want to weave anything inside of the tank and they have enough babies, they can get weaving. They haven't really showed much interest in it though, which is a little bit worrying. It's not looking good for the male they had as well, because I've seen his body being carried around the tank, and I'm pretty sure he's dead. He probably had a good run though. He seemed to last ages, that drone. They're really enjoying their little setup though at the minute, and I think they're happy to be back in their Weaver Outworld after being in with the Tetras. Next up, let's have a look at Colony B. I got these girls also from Antantics, like the first girls, and it was a 6 queen and maybe 10 workers colony. And I was really happy to see so many queens. My original colony, I believe, was 1 or 2. I did lose a queen in the beginning if I had an extra one. So yeah, they've only got 1 and have only ever had 1. I really do dream though of having a kind of 100-litre tank with a kind of really natural setup for them to kind of roam around in. That's one of my top plans for 2024 with this new colony. They've also chosen to live in their Tetra tower, but as you can see, they've done a lot more weaving and they've used the poplar wood a lot more. These girls are also a little bit less shiny than the others. Maybe it's a regional thing. It could also be age related. One thing I have noticed with the polyrhachis dives is they do like to just stand around sometimes and have a good look around.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Maybe it's because they live up trees and you got to keep an eye out for like evil wasps and flies and things like that, but yeah, they really do like to have a good look around sometimes. I've also tried to give them another little nest, which maybe they'll grow into one day, and it's made of fibre optics, and I thought, you know what, as I'm crazy about fibre optics, well, in 2023 I was, hopefully in 2024 I'll still be crazy over fibre optics, but I thought I'd give it a go and see what happens. The idea of a light up polyrhachis nest kind of, yeah, it tickles my fancy. Anyway, let's head over to the Formica fusca. This colony is now in their 2nd year, and they're doing quite well. They've been hibernating for the past about 4 months, and recently I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and give them a nudge in the right direction to wake up, but they haven't really responded too much. They still come out and feed actively, but they haven't really showed any sign of major brood production. The other day I do think I saw a batch of eggs though, and I'm hopeful that the queen has begun churning out a few eggs. This year, this colony should get absolutely huge. At the minute, they're at least 250 workers strong, but I believe they could easily be 2,500 by the end of the year. If I keep them in the incubator as well, warm, we could be pushing 4,000, which would be a dream. At that stage, I want to get some more Formica species, like Sanguini and Rufa, and the likes. Then I can chuck a load of Formica fusca brood in with them and give them a really good head start. Well, it's essential if you want a Sanguini queen. They're going to need some brood of another Formica species. Next up, my 2022 colony of Lasius flavus. They're doing really well inside of their nano, and all 3 queens are still active and, well, alive. I guess that's all that counts, really. They're currently living inside of one of my nano nests, and it's really suiting them quite well, I think. The bottom tube is housing. The second tube up is a dry tube, which I put their food in. Check out this little tinker as well. Oh, they're so cute, the little flavs. And the third tube is a water tube, which they're quite good at guzzling down as well. On today's menu, a little bit of jelly. That little worker in the tube as well, she's hiding, but she's still in there. They are such underrated ants, the Lasius flavus, and it's always been a dream of mine since seeing Ants England's giant flavus colony to have one that size myself. I've only ever managed to get them to 50 workers, and something always happens. The last colony I had, I went to AntCon and they all died when I was at AntCon because their nest dried out. Next up, Ramirez of the Manica McLeod family. She's doing absolutely brilliantly. Look at the size of this egg pile. There must be at least 40-50 eggs there. When I saw it last time, I was absolutely over the moon. I do think she might be deciding to wake up from diapause, because at the minute they've really slowed down their brood production. Although new workers are still being produced, there's not many left to go through the process. I think I'll get a maximum 4 more workers after this young little girl here, and then that'll be it, I think, until these eggs develop. I'm not sure if they'll develop straight away though either. They might have to wait till spring. It's not all happy news though for Ramirez's family. Some of the nanitics are slowly passing away. I tried to get this girl back on her feet, but I don't think it's really going to help her. I think her time has come. I've only had a few deaths recently, so I'm not too worried. I don't think anything's happening. I think it's just the natural passing of all the nanitics. Ramirez, though, is doing really good, and I'm quite looking forward to, in 2024, having, well, at least 100 workers. And I'd like to keep them in a synthetic setup this time because, well, the other girls are in a natural setup now, so I'd like to have one of each. The nest entrance for these girls is always buzzing, and inside of their new black floored outworld, I think they look absolutely stunning. So let's head over to the Tetramorium Kai Spitum. They've also been hibernating for the past couple months, but I have decided to wake them up a little bit early. I've not fully woken them up yet, but I have started feeding them more protein and sugar. They've got so much brood, and in 2024, I reckon they're at least going to double in the first few months. I think by May, there should be at least twice as many ants. If that does happen, I'm not sure what I'll do, if I'll expand them into a large satin, or give them a natural setup. I'm quite a fan of natural setups at the minute, and I've found what works for me, I think. So I may stick them inside of a lovely planted setup. At the minute, their tank is a bit dirty as well, because for months I've been trying to get the sand out. It's really hard though, because they're always crawling all over the sand, and I just can't be asked to hoover up the workers as well and separate them out. I think at the minute there might be at least 400 of these little girls running about as well. There's supposed to be some There's also supposed to be some Strongylanaphis I can't say them, but strong testicles. The other parasitic ants in here, but I haven't seen their queen for months and months and months, and I don't really know how to tell their workers apart, so I'm not sure if she's still alive, and I'm not sure if there's any of her workers kicking about. If anybody knows what they look like, let me know, because I don't have a clue. I have been looking though, but normally the little Strongylanaphis queen hugs the Tetramorium queen and is always around her. Well, she was in the beginning, but all of a sudden sometimes she disappeared and I've never seen her since. I think maybe they ate her. Next up, the plagiolepsis, and what you're looking at here is a tube that's about to go bone dry. They've been inside of this tube now for, I believe, about 2 years. So yeah, it's done really well. Instead of their tube, I've decided to give them a nano that I've super glued into a tub. Basically, I've only found one outworld that will hold these girls. Very little can contain these ants, and apart from the Antantic's new outworld, I haven't actually found anything else. Except for, well, tubs and tubes setup basically. Because the tub is nice and smooth around the edges, there's not really anywhere for them to escape from. So I've chucked them inside. It was a pretty rough dump and run with these girls, but after a couple of days they did find the tubes and have moved in now. While I was having a good look at them, I decided to count the queens, and there's still 11 of them. I'm quite happy with that count because it was only 10 when I bought them. Lovely little girls though, they're basically like mini honeypot ants. Absolutely tiny though, and expert escapers. If you want to make micro-species nest, you've really got to test them with these girls, I think, because they are insane at escaping, like nothing else. They do look really pretty as well when their gasters are all filled up. I'm guessing at the minute they've got probably banana sugar snaps inside. Fingers crossed, now that none of them can escape, I hope, their population will maybe start to climb. It has been, well, I think nearly 2 years now, and they've not really grown at all, but they haven't shrank either. The workers do seem super persistent. So let's get on to Polyrhachis proxima. It's not looking too good in her tube at the minute. Unfortunately, all of her workers kept dying, and now it's just her now. This poor little worker died a couple days ago, and it was her last living one. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with this queen, but fingers crossed she can keep going. I did notice a little mite kind of nibbling away at the dead worker, and I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to take this queen out of this tube before the mites maybe stress her out. even though it's quite a lot of stress moving her, but decided to kind of move her over quick. First thing she did in the new tube was start trying to drink all the water off the cotton, which kind of does lead me to think that maybe dehydration is part of the problem. I'm going to have to make sure that I keep a nice open reservoir of water available to her though, I think. I'm going to have to plug her into a little outworld, I think, or maybe a Saturn. Fingers crossed, this little wave of brood continues to develop. Otherwise, I think this queen is going to have a hard time. Let's get on to the acorn ants. These girls I would normally describe as being a kind of a boring species of ant, but I don't think that's fair anymore, to be honest. These little girls are super active. I think there's maybe about 50 in this colony, and they lived in this acorn when I found them. I was going to put them into the shop as stock, but well, I decided to keep them for myself. The other colony, I think I managed to chuck into the Manica as well. I had a few colonies in acorns, and then I chucked all the acorns into the Manica, and I think I put the wrong ones in. I've been giving them sugar snaps though, and little bits of cockroach, and they seem all over it. These girls have got a super good smell like the flowers, so they're straight out for their food. Finally today, we've got the Atta Mexicana. These girls are ploughing on nicely. Like the acro, I've also been power feeding them recently. I've managed to find a really good source of brambles, so I can go nuts. I've also tried to clean them out recently, but it never ends well. Every time I put my hand in there, I get this. This is after just picking up one stick, 4 of them, nipping my hand right up. If you actually put your hand properly in there, you'll get hundreds of them trying to eat your hand off. Currently though, they've got one pod that's absolutely full, and I'm trying to get them to move into a second pod, but they keep filling up with trash. If I keep power feeding them though, I think the fungus should overspill from the first pod, and maybe they'll start building in the second pod. Hopefully. Ooh, looks like their water's empty as well, so I decided to fill that up. I like to give them water over winter because it's a little bit drier, I think, and all the leaves as well, they're just not as good, so sometimes they like to add a little bit more water to them. They drink about 100 millilitres a month at the minute, I'd say. In 2024, I'm quite looking forward to renovating their setup and giving them something really special that's nice to look at as well. Anyway, that's all for part 1 of my ant cave tour of 2024. I hope you enjoyed looking at the ants today. There should be a part 2 out in no time at all. Until next time though, thanks for watching, have a fabulous week, may your ants live long and prosper, and bye!